Dave would like to know, how do you change the mindset of testers from manual to exploratory? Excellent, excellent question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. One of the biggest shifts that we're seeing in testing, as we saw, the pendulum shifted massively towards automated testing most recently, and a lot of scripted testing became automated. But what hasn't become automated is the testing part of testing, the exploratory side of things. When people say manual testing, I think we're still of that mindset that it is, a less skilled piece of work, or that it is about ticking off things that could be automated, doing the checking side of things, which isn't something I necessarily subscribe to. So I would say, manual testing is anything that isn't, automated or machine-driven testing, but there's still that view of things. One thing that we can do to try and help bring people on a journey of testing, exploratory testing, is to show that to pull out and do a lot of our scripted testing, we still need people to think and to drive out exploratory tests, and that will help shape what our testing should be. So it's a journey that I've definitely been on myself, and I'm just looking to see if I've got something here that might help. I'm just having to open another slide deck because I've got, yes, here we go. Sorry, please bear with me. Okay, I did a talk where I shared the types of things that I was doing around how I moved from being a very traditional style scripted tester, a manual scripted tester in a finance industry, towards moving towards being a bit more full stack and having a bit more sort of exploratory experience. So the first thing that I was doing at the banks was test scripts. I was running test scripts. I was that manual tester, but I was using SQL, and I was doing things like I was using Excel and so on as well. From there, I pushed myself towards learning about what is this exploratory testing thing. And it started in just simple ways. Rather than, scripting out all of my test scripts, I would just write the test scenario and then use exploratory testing to fill in the gaps and find a bit more about that. I then learnt a lot more about exploratory testing. I read Elizabeth Hendrickson's Explore It. I worked with Dan Ashby. I read a number of other blog posts around the exploratory testing world, and found out, and obviously on the Ministry of Test, started to watch some of their videos as well. So that I started to get a better understanding of what exploratory testing could give to me. And I tried it out using, it was Quality Center back then, just having the scenarios and attaching things to it. I was also, if you remember that.
Wow,
I also started, using Postman and doing API testing. So I would, push my exploration further down the line, starting to try and get under the covers at things. From there, I started looking at the dev console. So I knew about APIs. I could look at the network tab, or I could start looking at the code. And because I had all this information, I was able to start trying to get into automation. Postman, which is a tool that allows me to interrogate APIs, has a great suite or a great functionality of automated testing that allows you to add tests to any endpoint calls that you make. And there are a lot of snippets that basically write out most of these tests for you. So you can start to understand the structure of how these tests will look, what you're looking for in these calls as well. From there, I started doing even more things. I got involved in TDD and BDD. I started pairing to review unit tests and debugging issues. I learned JavaScript, my first object-oriented language, so that I could write Selenium tests at the front end and the back end. And then I went into Docker, and I learned how to use Docker Compose so that I could then finally get to CI/CD tools. But you're right in asking the original question. That first jump from test scripts to exploratory testing was definitely the biggest shift of mindset for me. Realizing that I didn't have to have test evidence and scripts to tell me what to do, because it's already in my head. I already knew what I wanted to do. so I could just try things and explore. Other ways that you can do these types of things is to start pairing with people. If you go onto like a lot of the blogs, if you go into the Ministry of Testing, and if you were to say, do you know what, I'm looking for a mentor in exploratory testing, I want to try it out, I want to move away from like manual testing and make myself more marketable, I want to understand and have more fun in my testing, would someone be happy to mentor me and do some paired testing with me? So many people would. I'm sure of it. So yeah, that's kind of the mindset on this, is when you're moving from your manual testing to exploratory testing, it's really just understanding that things have moved, that your scripted testing is now such a small part of what testing can be. And what the market is looking for is people that they can do the scripted side and do it fast. And if you can manually do it really fast, faster than an automaton, faster than a machine, great, that's awesome. But usually we're going to get a computer to do it for us. But the other side of things that the market has now latched onto is this exploratory testing, finding out what we don't know about things. And that's what people are calling out for. So really, it's one of the specialisms in testing that if we don't engage with it and don't do it, we're missing out on a lot of testing there. I think that kind of got into answering the question. It was more just sort of like a list of things that I did in my testing journey, but hopefully that was helpful.
I personally, I don't want to speak for everybody in the chat, but I personally think that was super helpful, because I liked, it kind of sounded like you were framing it in terms of you were expanding your understanding of what testing was. And I liked how you kind of said, you can still do the scripting, it still has value, but it now becomes a much smaller part of your repertoire. And I think that is the key to help people see that you're not diminishing them by asking them to do less of that work. You're actually giving them more opportunity. So yeah. Love that answer. Love it.